Hello everyone, welcome back to the World Conflict Monitor. Please subscribe and like my videos. Today we dive deep into a hypothetical but vivid scenario. Belarus erupts. Soldiers turn against Lukashenko. A revolution begins. In this breakdown we will explore exterior, interior, performance, safety features, unique selling points, price in metaphorical/political cost terms, and wrap up with a conclusion. Imagine Belarus as a system, like a vehicle under stress, and treat this uprising scenario as the product under review. On the exterior, the picture is striking. We see uniformed soldiers massing on the streets of Minsk, regional garrisons mobilized, columns of military vehicles moving along Belarusian highways, tanks stationed near government buildings in the capital, and the national flag fluttering, sometimes torn, sometimes defiant, above contested zones. The facade of power is in tension. Presidential palaces, ministries, TV broadcast towers, and strategic infrastructure, rail hubs, bridges, rail lines to Russia all become visible symbols in the contest. The exterior reflects the contest for legitimacy. From afar, foreign media capture aerial views of protests surging in main squares, roads shut down by armored personnel carriers, checkpoint barricades erected by rebel soldiers, and smoke or tear gas drifting in the air. The exterior is not just visual spectacle, it's the public arena where control is tested, where images matter, where the question of who commands the streets is ever visible. Now turning inward, inside the system, in a large detailed interior segment, within the corridors of power in Minsk and elsewhere, tension is at a boiling point. Inside the presidential residence, security teams whisper about loyalty, new orders arrive via secure lines, and Lukashenko's inner circle debates whether to call in reinforcements from Russia. Behind closed doors, ministers and generals weigh defections. Some senior military officers have already privately signaled discontent. Mid-ranking officers in armored units or special forces move stealthily, perhaps awaiting orders or choosing sides. Intelligence agencies scramble to identify conspirators, while loyalist security organs carry out arrests and interrogations. In command centers, maps of Belarusian regions are displayed, red zones showing contested territory, arrows showing troop movements, and communications traffic indicating which units still respond to regime commands and which are out of contact or rebelling. Inside military barracks in regional cities, soldiers awaken to conflicting directives, some told to secure government buildings, others hearing rumors of defection. In the barracks mess halls and sleeping quarters, whispered conversations reveal fear, hope, desperation. Some soldiers share slogans with civilians, others cling to orders. In command posts, radio chatter reflects confusion. Some units refuse to obey orders, others wait for clarity. Logistics hubs, supply depots, communication nodes all become internal pressure points. Which side controls them will determine whether the rebellion can sustain itself. Meanwhile, inside state media headquarters, journalists are confronted with censorship orders, forced scripting, or refusal to broadcast certain images. Propaganda departments scramble to spin events, trying to maintain a facade of control even as the internal system creaks. Inside prisons and detention centers, political prisoners or arrested mutineers are held. Inside interrogation rooms, tortured confessions may be forced. Inside underground opposition safe houses, planning occurs. Clandestine meetings, encrypted communications, coordination of civilian, protest support in cities across Belarus. Inside city administrations, local officials decide whether to side with the regime or defect. Inside local police stations, some chains of command fracture. The police may refuse to repress protests or may hand over control to rebel forces. Inside foreign embassies in Minsk or elsewhere, diplomats monitor the crisis, shuttle messages, offer asylum to defectors. The internal system is a battlefield of loyalty, fear, command disruption, communication blackout, and shifting alliances. Performance in this context refers to how effectively this uprising, revolution scenario evolves, The performance metrics would include speed of mobilization, coherence of rebel command, maintenance of security across territory, capacity to hold key nodes communications, transit, power, military bases, public support, and external reaction. In a strong performance scenario, the rebels seize control of key military bases, block presidential communications, isolate the capital, maintain order in liberated zones, and restrict regime reinforcements. The regime's performance is measured by its ability to project force, suppress rebellion, cut off defectors, maintain loyalty among top brass, call in external assistance, especially from Russia, and survive the power shift. High performance for the insurgent side would also see minimal fragmentation, strong coordination, a unified chain of command, and rapid propaganda control. On the flip side, poor performance arises when rebels are fragmented, lack logistic depth, fail to hold territory, are crushed by counterattacks, or morale collapses. A balanced performance might lead to stalemate, divided country, prolonged conflict, or external mediation. Safety features in this political system metaphor correspond to mechanisms designed to reduce harm, preserve stability, or minimize violence. Both sides will claim protection of civilians, transition through dialogue, or preventing civil war as safety valves. Rebel leadership may emphasize rules of engagement, avoidance of indiscriminate violence in urban zones, protection of critical infrastructure power plants, hospitals, and ensuring supply of food, water, medical aid to contested areas. They may declare safe corridors for civilians to evacuate, humanitarian zones, and insist on avoiding unnecessary destruction of cultural heritage. The regime might counter with claims of restoring order, imposing curfews, conducting limited operations in terrorist enclaves, regulating press to prevent panic, and protecting foreign nationals and diplomatic facilities. Another safety feature is negotiated ceasefires. Third, party oversight, agreements for temporary power sharing, or intervention by international organizations to monitor human rights. In a best-case scenario, the conflict includes built-in mechanisms to avoid mass bloodshed or total infrastructure collapse. In the worst case, these safety features fail, and escalation leads to repression, indiscriminate violence, collapse of public services, and humanitarian crisis. The unique selling points in this narrative, what makes this story compelling and distinct, are several. First, the dramatic twist of soldiers defecting. The turning of the armed forces against the incumbent regime is always a catalyst for real regime change. That break in loyalty immediately raises the stakes. Second, the national symbolism. Belarus is often seen as one of Europe's last authoritarian holdouts, so the idea of a domestic revolution overturning Lukashenko captures international imagination. Third, the geopolitical dimension. Belarus sits between Russia and Europe. Any upheaval has implications for Russian security, Western influence, sanctions, energy supply, and regional stability. Fourth, the human drama, stories of soldiers refusing orders, protests in icy Minsk winters, tear gas and crowds, families divided, secret communications, and moral choices make it visceral. Fifth, the uncertainty factor. No one knows whether the regime will survive, whether external powers intervene, or whether the country fragments. That uncertainty fuels audience tension. Sixth, the moral angle. Questions of legitimacy, human rights, democracy, and popular revolt against dictatorship make it more than just a conflict. It becomes a story of justice, hope, and the price of change. Now, price in this metaphorical setting refers to the cost, political, human, economic, and strategic, of this uprising. The human price could be casualties, arrests, disappearances, refugees fleeing to Poland, Lithuania, or Russia. Economic price includes disruption to trade, shutting down industrial production, supply chain breakdowns, sanctions retaliation, loss of foreign investment, collapse of tourism, and damage to infrastructure, roads, energy, telecom. Politically, price includes instability, potential for authoritarian restoration, fracturing of the country, loss of control by central government, and risk of being drawn into wider conflict, e.g. Russia intervening militarily. Strategically, Belarus could lose sovereignty, become a battleground in great power competition, or be forced into a dependent alignment. Price also includes reputational damage to leaders, loss of legitimacy, potential war crimes investigations internationally, and the long-term burden of reconciliation, justice, rebuilding social trust. To conclude, this dramatic scenario, Belarus erupts, soldiers turn against Lukashenko, a revolution begins, is rich with tension, symbolism, and potential for dramatic change. On the exterior, the stage is the streets, the tanks, the flags. Inside, hidden fissures widen among generals, officers, and bureaucracies. Performance is measured in speed, coherence, command control, and territory held. Safety features reflect the ability to protect civilians and maintain limited violence. Unique selling points lie in the defection of soldiers, the geopolitics, moral stakes, and the unknown outcome. The price is steep in lives, infrastructure, politics, and stability. In the end, whether this revolution succeeds or dies, its significance would be measured by how much control shifts, whether Belarus transitions toward governance accountable to people rather than to a singular ruler, and how the balance of power in Eastern Europe is reshaped. Thank you for watching this deep breakdown.